What's up everyone and welcome back. Before we start today's video, I need you to help me out. Hit that like button right now. It really helps the channel get bigger, and I really appreciate when you do it. Alright, let's get started because we have lots of cool stuff to talk about today. So Dana White did a question and answer thing with CBS Mornings recently, and his answer about the flyweight division is pretty crazy. You have to remember, just a few years ago, the UFC almost shut down the whole flyweight division. That's the division with the smallest fighters. Fans got really mad at them for even thinking about it, and I'm glad they didn't do it, but here's the cool part. When Dana was asked if he likes heavyweight fighters or flyweight fighters better, guess what he said? He said flyweight. He just straight up said he's a flyweight guy now. This is the same guy who almost got rid of the division. The whole question and answer was pretty fun to watch. They asked him if he likes submissions or knockouts better, and he said knockouts because he used to be into boxing. They asked him Instagram or TikTok. He said Instagram. They asked him coffee or energy drinks. He said energy drinks because he doesn't like how coffee tastes. They asked cold plunge or sauna. He said you need to do both. But that flyweight answer really got my attention because it shows how much he likes the division now. Now, let's talk about some fighters who just got cut from the UFC. The UFC is getting rid of some fighters as we start 2026, and one of these names might surprise you. Lucas Almeida just got let go from the UFC. A guy named Kevin Case reported it. Almeida didn't do great in the UFC. He had 6 fights and only won 2 of them. He lost his last 2 fights. He also didn't make weight for one of his fights, which is really bad. Right now, Almeida hasn't said anything about getting cut. Darius Flowers also got cut from the roster. If you don't know who that is, he got a contract from Dana White's Contender Series back in 2022. But when he got to the UFC, things went really bad. He lost all 3 of his fights. So yeah, not good. But here's the really surprising one. Patchy Mix got let go from the UFC. This was one of the fighters everyone was excited about when he came from Bellator. He was really good over there. But his time in the UFC was terrible. He lost both of his fights. Then in October 2025, people found out that one of his wins in Bellator got taken away because he tested positive for something. It wasn't steroids or anything like that, but he tested positive for marijuana. For the UFC, that was the last straw, and they cut him. But Patchy is already moving on, which is cool. He's going to fight at Ryzen 52 on March 6th in Tokyo against a fighter named Kiyoma Akamoto. He went to a press conference and talked about everything. He said about 5 or 6 weeks after his last fight, Ali, who works for him, told him he was getting cut. Patchy said he's been thinking about what he wants to do next, and he's moving up to featherweight. That's a heavier weight class. He said he wants to show everyone a new version of himself because he hasn't been having fun. He's been cutting too much weight to fight at bantamweight, and it was really hard on him. He said this change is going to be really important, and when Ryzen called him, it was an easy choice. He fought there back in 2019 and really liked it. He loves the Japanese fans, and he's been watching Ryzen fights for years. So it made a lot of sense for him. All right, let's talk about Cameron Smotherman. If you watched the UFC 324 weigh-ins, you saw something really scary. A fighter fell down during the weigh-ins. That fighter was Smotherman. After that happened, he posted a video saying he was okay and that he was going to get some tests done to find out what happened. Well, he just posted another video, and this one is actually pretty funny. He's asking for an electrolyte company to sponsor him. He's sitting there with another guy, and he's like, hey, people can still check on me, but I'm doing fine. I'm not going to sit around being sad forever, but I need an electrolyte sponsorship. Element, somebody, please sponsor me and my friend here. We need electrolytes. We're clearly dying over here. I mean, you have to respect the hustle. The guy fell down at weigh-ins, and now he's trying to get a sponsorship from it. Now, let's talk about some new fights that were just announced because we have some cool matchups coming up. About 2 days ago, we told you that Cub Swanson would be fighting at UFC 327 in Miami, but we didn't know who he was fighting. Well, last night Swanson told everyone who he's fighting. He posted on social media that Cub Swanson will fight Nate Landwehr. Swanson just won a fight against Billy Quarantillo, and his record in the UFC is 15 wins and 10 losses. Landwehr has lost his last 2 fights, and his record is 5 wins and 5 losses in the UFC. It's a good matchup between 2 guys who always put on exciting fights. Next, we have a fight announced for UFC Seattle on March 28th. Bruno Lopez announced on Instagram that he's going to fight Navajo Sterling. Lopez got a contract from Dana White's Contender Series back in 2024. Since then, he's won 1 and lost 1 in the UFC. His last fight was a loss to Dustin Jacoby. Sterling is doing really well right now. He also won on Dana White's Contender Series, and he's never lost a fight. His record is 8 wins and 0 losses with 3 wins in the UFC. Just so you know, this fight is at light heavyweight, which is one of the heavier weight classes. And here's some cool numbers about UFC 324. 2 days ago, we told you that UFC 324 had 5.93 million people watching at the same time, which is crazy. Last night, Business Insider said that Paramount got about 1 million new subscribers on the day of UFC 324. Think about that. 1 million new people signed up in just one day because of one UFC event. That shows how popular the UFC is right now. All right, let's get into some of the bigger stories. Diego Lopes is fighting this weekend, and he's talking back to MMA fans. If you don't know, fans have been really upset with Diego getting another chance to fight Alex Volkanovski right away. A lot of people are saying there are other fighters who deserve it more in the featherweight division. Fans think fighters like Movsar Evloev and Lerone Murphy deserve it more, especially because both of them haven't lost any fights, and Movsar beat some really good fighters like Aljamain Sterling and even Diego Lopes himself. So Diego said this to those fans who are mad about this rematch. He said, "Ask the people. I think the people are never happy. If the UFC gave the chance to Movsar, people would start saying, oh, but this guy hasn't fought in 1 year. He never finishes fights. If they gave the chance to Murphy, people would say, oh, but he only beat one guy outside the UFC. The people are never happy with anything. This is the truth. He beats the guy ranked number 10. They're still never happy." Now, Diego Lopes is kind of right that fans will always complain about something, but it's still easy to say that Movsar deserves this fight more than him, especially when you remember that Diego Lopes lost to Movsar in a tough fight. You could really see that Movsar was better throughout their fight. Diego started strong but got tired as Movsar took over. But their fight was a few years ago, so it would be interesting to see how much better both guys have got. And actually, let's talk more about Charles Oliveira because he did an interview recently. He thinks that Diego Lopes will beat Alex Volkanovski at UFC 325. Even though he knows Volk is still a tough fighter, Charles just thinks that Diego's speed and aggressiveness will help him win. Charles said, "Honestly, without picking favorites, I think Diego wins. Volk is tough and moves well, but Diego is getting better fast. He's aggressive, has great jiu-jitsu, strong striking, and always goes after the fight. I think this time, with the chance he has, his speed, style, and hunger, Diego takes it." Who do you think will win at UFC 325? Let us know what you think in the comments below, because I want to hear what you guys think about this rematch. Now, staying on Charles Oliveira for a minute, he also talked about some other stuff in this interview. He was asked about Arman Tsarukyan versus Ilia Topuria, and he said that he thinks Arman would beat Ilia as long as he can wrestle like he normally does and gets Ilia on the ground. Charles said if Arman fights the way he usually does, putting pressure on guys and taking them down, then he would definitely win. But if he stays standing and trades punches, he'll definitely get knocked out. That's the key. As a lot of fans already know, Charles said he made a mistake trying to stand and trade punches with Ilia when they fought. He got knocked out at UFC 317. He thinks that if he listened to his coach's game plan and didn't try to stand and bang with Ilia, then he had a better chance at winning. Charles also talked about how his training is going right now. In just over a month, Charles will be fighting Max Holloway at UFC 326 on March 7th for the BMF title. When asked how he was feeling while getting ready for the fight, he said, "Honestly, I'm really happy with everything that's been happening. With all the training, my mind and my spirit are in a really good place with everything going on. I hope it stays that way so that on fight night, we're just completely focused on doing what we're born to do." He also said that his team is studying videos and making the best game plan for him. But he also said that people like to watch him because of how he fights. He's always moving forward and going after his opponents. This is kind of worrying because he had this same way of thinking with Ilia Topuria, and we all know how that ended for Charles. Moving forward and hunting is exciting to watch. No doubt about it. But it can make you lose the fight with one punch. Charles needs to be smart about this because Max Holloway is really good. Charles is also interested in fighting at the UFC White House event. When asked if he would want to be on that card and who he would fight, he said, "Honestly, who wouldn't want to fight at the White House to leave a legacy, to make history? That would be something huge, something that's never happened before. If it happens now, it would be magical for me." But there are a lot of things to think about. The first is whether Topuria moves up a weight class. If he does, the belt becomes empty, and then you've got Justin Gaethje with the interim belt, which could become the real title. There are many things involved, but I really want it. As everyone knows, I focus on one thing at a time. And right now, my full focus is on Max and putting on a great fight and getting a big win. That would definitely put me in a strong position to fight at the White House. So basically, Oliveira is waiting to see what happens next with Ilia Topuria. If Ilia moves up and gives up his title, then Gaethje wouldn't be interim champ anymore and would become the real champ. Then Charles would want to be on the White House card fighting Gaethje for the official lightweight belt. Of course, he has to make sure he can beat Max Holloway first, and if we look at Holloway's previous fights, not counting Ilia, he looks like a really tough opponent for Charles. Alright, now let's get into one of the biggest stories of the day. Islam Makhachev versus Ian Gary might be next. During an interview with MMA Junkies, Mike Bone, Islam Makhachev's manager Ali Abdelaziz, said that the UFC is planning on having Islam fight Ian Gary and not Kamaru Usman, like Islam wants. According to Ali, both Islam and Usman want to fight each other, but the UFC doesn't agree and might make Ian Gary the next fight instead. He also said that there are 2 dates they're looking at right now, May at the Prudential Center in New York or New Jersey, or June at the UFC White House event. Ali said Makhachev and Usman want to fight each other, but UFC might have a different plan. But don't tell me Ian Gary. He's the guy people are jumping over. I have no problem with him. He just lost to Shavkat, and he was almost finished by Prates. It's not like a guy who's going to sell out an arena or something like that. The math doesn't add up for me. He's not the guy people think he is. He was not good enough to be the main event in Qatar. This is my side of the story. I'm sure the UFC has a different side, and we will meet up. Islam would like to fight in May or June. I heard they have Prudential Center in May, or June at the White House would be good. We'll figure it out. Now, Ian Gary also posted a new video on his Instagram where he said really nice things about Islam and said that he's one of the most dangerous fighters on this planet. But anyone who beats him can take that spot. And Ian thinks he will be the one to beat Islam. Ian said, Islam Makhachev is one of the greatest fighters walking the planet Earth right now. The #1 pound-for-pound fighter on the planet, a 2-weight world champion, former world and European champion. He's absolutely unbelievable at what he does. He's one of the most dangerous men walking the planet right now. When you beat Islam, it changes the way everyone in the world thinks about you. And I'm going to do it. Whether the UFC books Ian Gary or someone else for Islam to fight next, it looks like the UFC is not interested in having him fight Kamaru Usman. I think a lot of fans wanted to see Islam versus Usman, but it looks like the UFC has different plans. During an interview with Full Violence, Merab said that the UFC promised him a title shot next, but he said that he won't be fighting on the UFC White House card, and he doesn't really care if he's on that card or not. Merab said, one thing is for sure, that UFC told me this. I'm next for the title. They saw my hard work and I beat Peter in 2023. He beat me in 2025. The White House, yeah. But they told me our fight is not going to be at the White House. But listen, guys, I don't care. White House, Black House, just UFC, Apex, whatever it is, I'm fine. Or my backyard. As long as it's UFC, I'm fine. This all sounds great, right? Well, we have some bad news. Yesterday, people found out that Peter Yan had a 9-hour surgery. He posted this update on his Instagram story. He said, I was under anesthesia for 9 hours. I had surgery on my lower back yesterday. A couple of months, and I'll be back in action. Right now, we don't know exactly what was wrong with Yan, but because it's a lower back surgery, he could be out for 6 months, or even longer, depending on how he heals. So, if that's true, does Merab think about taking another fight while he waits? Or is he willing to wait for Yan and fight him again, sometime this summer? Maybe even fall? It's a tough situation because Merab has been waiting for his title shot for a really long time. But at the same time, Petr Yan is the fight that makes the most sense for him because of their history. And that's it for our video today. Seriously though, I want to hear from you guys. What fight are you most excited about from everything we talked about today? Write your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. We'll see you all tomorrow.